too. Ryan's here, Matt Widener's here, Weiselek, Miller Heath, Catherine Lambert, Ashok, Peacock Law, and Alan West.
Alan Wells.
Wells, sorry. Okay.
We need Carrie and Will, and I don't have phone numbers for Carrie.
Can you hear me?
I just texted Carrie.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Will's coming
got
in.
20, 30, 32 seconds. Will's coming in.
Oh, yay. Okay.
Will's on now.
Will.
We got 3.
Can anyone hear me?
Yes, Kurt, we can.
Yes, sir. We sure can.
Thank you. Thank you. Whew, worried there for a minute.
Hey there.
And here comes Carrie.
There's,
Hey, Will.
There's Will and Carrie coming on.
All right, folks. Well, I've got 4 o'clock, so I will call the January 19th
Bringing everybody in now.
meeting to order. If you want to bring everybody in.
Everybody should be coming on, Chris.
All right. Okay, we live now, Mark?
We are.
All right. Well, we will call the January 19th, 2021 Design Review Board meeting to order. First order of business is approval of the meeting minutes from December 7th, 2020. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes? And does anyone have any changes? If they do look. All right. Do I have a motion for approval?
So move.
All right. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second. Beach to it.
All right. We good. All right. All in favor of approval of the December 7th, 2020 meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Motion carries. All right. First order of business today is 695 Riverside Drive. Certificate of appropriateness for design and material approval for a dog park and bar. CBD 1 district. Kate Lambert is the applicant. Kate, if you could just tell us a little bit about your project, state your, well, first of all, state your name and address for the record, and then tell us a little bit about the project, and we'll ask questions.
Absolutely. Hey, everyone. My name is Kate Lambert. I live here on Callaway Drive in Macon, and the dog park and bar, Barks and Brews, that I'm proposing is located on Riverside Drive at 635 and 695. So Barks and Brews is an off-leash dog park and bar that would be located right at Rotary Park in the adjacent lot. You'll see here in some of the pictures that the actual bar, you know, that land, that space does not have any current structures on it. It has there's a fountain and a small pergola and a sidewalk right at Rotary Park, but I'm proposing to fence in both of those lots with this. I'm sorry. Oh, I thought somebody asked something.
Somebody was not muted.
Okay. To fence in both of these lots with this black aluminum fencing here, and the actual bar would be an Airstream trailer, which is something that if you looked it up, you would see these are popping up all over. Well, dog parks and bars are popping up all over the country, and the use of Airstream trailers as bars are as well. So it would be, customers would not go in and out of the Airstream. It would just essentially be for serving out of. 2 pergolas would be added to the property for covered structures with seating. And I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything. Those would be also aluminum to match the fencing, make it look nice in unison. And I'm trying to go with you as you go through the
Tell me,
pictures.
just tell me if what you need to see.
It's
It's an incredible view of the Okmulgee River there.
Yeah, there's
Oh, it's so wide.
Yeah, blue.
crisp. The restrooms, yep, that's the last little bit. Would be added in right there, would be located right there next to the Airstream trailer. Hardboard, asphalt roofing, to just to one men's room, one women's restroom, and also proposing AstroTurf as well to be used to access for accessibility to the Airstream and to the restrooms.
Anybody have any questions or concerns for Ms. Lambert?
Mark, can you pull up the site plan again? Is there an image of that?
There is. That's exactly what I just texted him. There you go. But it's kind of big.
There we go.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you can see the access point would be right here at First Street. And so that's where the parking is laid out, and the Airstream with the restrooms would be downhill right near the parking. And so most of the area would remain open for dogs to, run, roam, play, etc.
And the fence is 8 feet tall?
It's an 8-foot tall aluminum fence, which I believe I was told was the max height that I could go on fencing.
It looks like it meets all of the setback requirements. Adrienne, were there any concerns there?
No, Kate understands the height limitations and she understands the setbacks.
I think it's a great idea. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
No,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think this looks exciting and as a great way to activate that space. So I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, I would echo the same, and just had a question about the Airstream trailer. Is it going to be permanently attached, or is it?
So it's not. It won't be permanently attached. It will sit on something so that it won't. My plan is for it to be sitting on top of something, but it will not be. I mean, I could right now. I have it at the shop. I could easily to a trailer and move it if and when needed.
Right. Well, it probably has certain needs service and
right.
Like that too, so.
We don't have much in the way of code regarding travel trailers in the CBD. But I anticipate we will probably talk with Kate about things like removing the tongue or doing something to make it appear more permanent anyway. But Kate, we'll deal with that later.
Sure.
I did have a question about lighting. Will you have any exterior lighting that's going to be going in?
Yes. So the game plan for lighting would be white string lights.
Okay.
White string lights in the Airstream actually, and then around the pergolas.
Okay.
Yes. So nothing, I guess, necessarily permanent.
Okay.
I am leasing this property from Urban Development Authority. My idea, I have a 5-year lease with them, and hopefully we'll be able to extend that lease after 5 years. I have the option to. And so my thought process at the same time is I want to make sure that anything that I put on this property, if I had to, which I'm hoping I will not, but if I had to, I could, take with me to relocate if needed. But yeah, so string lights, and there are actually some light posts over around the fountain at Rotary. So yep, in that area.
Okay.
What would your hours of operation be? And that's just my curiosity.
Yeah, so I would like to get to a place where I am open in the mornings for people to come by before work and drop their dog off, let their dog, exercise their dog in the mornings, especially those people who live downtown in the lofts. But off the bat, I'm thinking more of an afternoon to evening and then to transition into longer hours. So as of now, 3 to 4 o'clock to 9 to 10 o'clock.
I got you. Well, I mean, you know, I wouldn't mind being able to grab a Bloody Mary on the way to work someday. I can't do it, but it sure sounds like a good idea.
No dog required? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I've got a dog. I've got a dog.
You have
People
to
love
take
their
the dog.
dogs and people love beer and being outside. You know, it makes sense to me. I think Macon could really use something like this. I think that Macon would really support it. So just with my family and my friends, I feel like we could make it work. All the dog owners that I know.
So it looks like there's an existing curb cut here that you're utilizing,
Yes.
but there's not a traffic light this direction too. Have you had any conversations with traffic engineering?
We've been in touch. Alex has been super helpful. I'm getting in touch with the DOT and he's been arguing my point. They originally were pretty adamant that they wanted to see a fourth leg there. UVA doesn't want to pay for it. I certainly don't want to pay for it. So we're exploring all of our options as far as what we can do in that area. Who we've been in touch with the DOT said the most recent interaction we had last week was that he was going to talk with his supervisor because we showed him a couple other places in town that didn't have a fourth leg. And so he said, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of this. Let me look over this again and circle back. So if we can't come to a solution with that, the other thing that we did talk about that Alex and I talked about was that using the new street. And I guess it's probably not going to show up on this site plan, but New Street does have.
Yeah, Kate, I was going to say there is a fourth leg. I know there at the old Central Services access, which would be fairly easy gravel access down there.
So that would be plan B, you know, if this can't work out, and that would just mean essentially I would, I guess, have to get an easement. I'm not sure how that worked, but Alex and I could certainly work that out if the DOT doesn't like this plan.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Gotcha. All right. Well, if there aren't any questions, do I have a motion?
So moved.
For 635, 69. Okay, we've got a motion for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, we got a second from both Mr. Brewer and Mr. Stafford. So being that 635 and 695 Riverside Drive has been found appropriate as submitted, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. All right, the motion passes. Kate, thank you very much.
Thank y'all so much.
All right. Now, Adrienne, are we going to hear 669 Arlington Place?
No,
It
we
was
don't
crossed
hear
off
that.
on the, okay.
That goes to
Okay.
straight to commission.
All right, the next item on the agenda is 804 Cherry Street, Certificate of Appropriateness for Design Approval of New Parking Lot, HR3 District, Matt Widener applicant. I understand we might have a couple of people speaking to this, and we have a couple of people speaking that wish to speak to the project as well. So, Matt, are you going to present? Miller, are you going to present?
Yeah, I'll be presenting.
Who was
All
that?
right, if you could just, that's Matt Widener. So Matt,
Yes.
if you could just state your name and address, you know the drill.
Matt Widener, 793 Poplar Street, Macon, Georgia. So as you can see from the site plan that's up on the screen right now, we're proposing one ADA accessible parking space with 6 additional parking spaces that front New Street. We've met with traffic engineering and got a preliminary thumbs up from those guys. There was some discussion about the zoning. This is HR3, but we're right up against Central Business District. And, I think that this is a little bit of a different and unique scenario. But I'll be glad to go into any detail that you guys have questions about. I do have several examples in the general vicinity of similar parking spaces.
So tell us a little bit about your wall material that you're proposing.
We're looking to do a brick that matches very similarly to the existing facade and exterior of the existing primary structure. And we're really
Where
looking
would the wall
for,
be
feedback
located?
from you guys. I mean, we could have done a full set of plans with showing the retaining wall that would be required, or that would be preferable. We're hoping that it'll somewhat obscure the cars and the vehicles that are parked there's, from oncoming traffic. Additionally, we'd want to put a set of stairs adjacent to the retaining wall that would be on the page bottom of the 6 cars that are parked there, kind of the southwest. That's correct.
Left corner for me, the way I look at it. Right there.
And entering into the rear of the building. Those would be of similar material as the adjacent new development on New Street. Those are all either concrete stairs, timber and brick. We kind of looked at just a straight traditional brick with a black steel handrail. But again, we're looking for feedback from you guys. Like I said, we'd had some communication with staff, and the zoning director asked that we go ahead and make an application and get it in.
Okay. Are there any other questions? The drainage that comes out of there right now, how would that be handled?
It's a very small, the pipe that's there, is that what you're referencing?
Yeah, that little depression at the top of the slope actually was a portion of a very hastily put together hydrology study at one point that the city engineers required as the building was nearing completion.
Yeah, in speaking with the departments, they have indicated that it doesn't meet the threshold for stormwater management, but we would relocate that existing pipe to be transferred through the face of the block wall.
Gotcha.
And then it would surface drain to the right of way and north along the curb line to that existing curb inlet.
All right. Similar to how it does now.
Yeah, it'll
All right.
maintain the exact same drainage patterns.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions?
Matt, are you planning on accessing, it looks like you're accessing the handicap parking space through the parking lot that's off property? Is that something that Ryan, I see you're on the call. Are you here to speak to
Actually,
that?
no, we've got the access aisle, which is to the passenger side as
Yeah.
required by ADA. And then it would come and connect to the concrete sidewalk there that's labeled.
Oh, I see. But to get to the drive to the space, you have
To
to
drive to it.
His parking lot, right? Or is that a public alley at that point?
That was
My
my same
understanding is that-
question.
My understanding is that there's access easements, and
Okay.
I can pull it up. I've got, it appears that a portion of it is public. Let me look over on, but there are a multitude of easements, and Ryan may be able to interject as well.
All right.
There are a multitude of easements that I believe would allow access.
Gotcha. Okay.
And
Well, we do have 3 people to speak to this. Will, I'm sorry, Will, did I cut you off?
oh yeah, just one more thing. There in that location right now, there appears to be a dumpster. Is that Does that belong to the applicant or the property owner, or does that go with the housing?
Yeah, it's just an enclosure for pull carts.
Oh,
It's,
okay.
it's not a large dumpster. It's just an enclosure for Herbie Kirby sanitation carts, whatever the proper terminology is.
Okay. And that's going to be relocated elsewhere when that
Correct.
space comes in. Okay. Gotcha. Thanks.
Chris, could I ask, Matt, will the parking area be asphalt or concrete?
We're really looking for input from you guys. I mean, we had, it's obviously more economical to do an asphalt. It reduces glare, but we'd be open to looking at different cost assessments and aesthetics.
Okay, and you're gonna have to remove the sidewalk for the apron to New Street. Is that will the new grades start at the current curb line or the back of the sidewalk? In other words, are you going to maintain a sidewalk through there that's defined as a walkway?
It'll be an apron. It'll be a smooth transition there. So to transition from the parking over the existing curb, we'd have to taper the sidewalk down with a ADA accessible ramp there. Does that address your question?
It does. Thank you.
One more thing. What about the proximity to the intersection for traffic? I guess there's a traffic light there, and pulling out into that or backing out into that is traffic engineering. Okay with that, or have you sought their input on that?
We met on site, and I believe that traffic engineering has been in communication with staff, and to our knowledge, they are on board with everything that we've presented.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't receive any pushback from the traffic engineer on their proposal.
It's pretty low.
Yeah, it's
traffic count.
Low traffic count.
Low traffic count, and you got a very low curb there as well, so
Yeah.
making the transition shouldn't be impossible to do. All right, we have 3 folks who would like to speak to this.
Chris, I'm gonna interrupt one more
Project.
time. Sorry. Matt,
It's all right.
will the retaining wall be high enough? You'll need a rail on top?
We're at the point where we're very preliminary to try to get to make sure that we're moving forward in the direction you guys want us to proceed. We'll need to do a topographic survey and design the retaining wall to really know. But looking at it, I would believe that it'll be around 42 inches. So it's right at the threshold.
Okay.
30 inches would be is typically the threshold, unless there's landscaping associated with that wall that would block somebody from going over it. So,
yeah, and we really don't look at it as being accessible from anybody. We're going to increase the foundation planning that's there and enhance that. There's only a little bit on the corner right now, so we'd like to turn the corner with that and increase the foundation planning a little bit more as well. That would allow us to keep people away from there. We really want to detract from that as much as possible from people going up there.
Matt, are you planning to submit for review the plans for the retaining wall and the landscape planning?
Yes, ma'am, we would.
Thank you.
and Matt, just as my 2 cents on the wall to soften that, could it be stepped, maybe 2 smaller walls in there to make up the grade? Just I think it's. I mean, this is. I see what's being built up the hill, what the use is. up the hill, and it's residential with sloping lawns, and it's, you know, a straight up and down 42-inch wall right here is going to be fairly imposing, in my opinion, especially with the open cars there.
Right. And what we will probably be able to do is stair step it on the side as the slope tapers back down towards New Street. So the whole wall will not be 42 inches or whatever it ends up being. 42 inches is just a general, is probably the high point in the center of those parking spaces, of those 6 spaces. It will step down as you go. It's kind of a knoll right there in the middle, and it will step down as you go to each side towards the intersection of Cherry and New Street, and south as well. And then also as it turns back towards New Street, towards the right of way of New Street as well.
And would the American Cancer Society sign be removed?
No, it will remain.
Okay. All right. Well, we do have 3 people that wish to speak to this. I don't know if there's a particular order, but the order that I received in my email was Mark Weislick was up first. So, Mr. Weislick, if you could state your name and address for the record. And
thank you very much. Thank you very much for having us on this. We appreciate it. My name is Mark Weislick. I live at 811 Cherry Street Lane. My home actually, back of it, faces this property. We bought this home and had this home built along with the other 8. There's other 8 homes in this development because we like the idea of living in the historic residential district. We also like the design of the privacy that this development allowed us to have. This privacy includes not only in terms of our real property that we have, but in terms of the parking and access, which is allowed by individuals through our lot and who is allowed to park there. We are part of we actually have a New Street development fund we kick into to help maintain the roads and streets, and Ryan can speak more to that. And this proposed parking in particular, speaking of the one on the, that would be on the southwest side of the property, I guess it would be the handicap parking. It will be, to get to it, they will be actually accessing our property that we have a right to. Furthermore, it will change the characteristics of this neighborhood from historic residential to much more of a commercial type district. I don't want to go out my back porch and see something which is historic residential is no longer historic residential. And that affects very much in terms of why I bought here, why I live here, and why I love living here. The idea of I am paying for, and as the other owners of this development are paying for actually the pavement, okay, on that. I am paying for that privacy. I am paying knowing that it only is accessible for use by the residents of the property. So I am absolutely opposed to the idea of converting that lot into the proposed ADA. Driving over our property, which we actually put money into, and actually driving over the curb that exists for the stormwater drainage is a serious effect on our property values, and I am absolutely opposed to the idea. Thank you for your time, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you all may have.
I do not have any questions.
Thank you.
Second on the list in my email was Ryan Griffin. Mr. Griffin, if you would just state your name and address for the record, and we'll hear what you have to say.
Sure. I'm Ryan Griffin. I live at 1107 Oglethorpe Street. I developed that property behind this building over the last several years. I still own one of the houses in that neighborhood as well. And I'm, you know, I don't make a habit of coming in front of planning and zoning or design review board to dispute progress in our community. However, in this instance, I do have a dispute over the access to this proposed handicap parking space, because all the title work and survey efforts we made on the front end in developing this property did not reveal any existing easements over this property to the building at 804 Cherry Street. I believe the easements that Mr. Widener's referencing are on a plat specific to this new street development. That being the 8 houses, I think it is, that we've built there over the last 6 or 7 years. So I've just got a dispute with the current owner regarding access. I think that maybe there's another option for them to satisfy zoning regulations or any building regulations, building department regulations that there might be. So that's about all I've got to say.
All right. Any questions for Ryan, commissioners, staff? All right. Next, go ahead, Jim.
No, I didn't have a
Jim,
question.
were you going to speak? All right.
No.
All right. All right. Next, we have Mr. Boyke. If you would state your name and address for the record.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Greg. I'm a resident at 844 Cherry Street, Macon, Georgia, which is 2 houses down on Cherry Street from the proposed property here. Also, I am a member of New Street Homeowners Association, and I'll briefly echo the comments that Mr. Weislick and Mr. Griffin made. But I also wanted to speak about some of my own concerns regarding the propriety of this proposal within a historic district, specifically the proposed retaining wall for which we have not yet seen any sort of design for. If you walk around the entire length of Cherry Street, you will find it exceedingly rare, if not non-existent, to have retaining walls fronting Cherry Street, which is the main artery of our downtown. And that street being one that is so open and welcoming as a symbol of our downtown to pedestrians and motorists alike, I think is very important to maintain that open presence of houses, building structures that front Cherry Street, having unimpeded visual access. So while we're talking about a wall that is what it sounds like about 3.5 feet tall in some places, the full design for that has not yet been finalized, which is concerning. And it would be inappropriate, I believe, given the historic character of the neighborhood. The other concern I would have is, as a pedestrian who frequently walks those sidewalks and specifically, chose to live in this downtown area because of walkability and that type of access. That intersection there, as one of your commissioners previously noted, is incredibly close to where the proposed parking would be going in on New Street. My back of the envelope about 35 or so feet from the intersection, which is extremely close. And the way that sidewalk actually bows out there slightly, a car could not make a right-hand turn from Cherry Street onto New Street and then into that parking space, into the first parking space. I think that is such a tight radius, you wouldn't even be able to do that. So I would have concerns about that specific location, as well as the fact that you are removing a sidewalk effectively in that area and creating a pedestrian hazard, where currently you've got a street that is very pedestrian friendly, is easily walkable. And there are already solutions in place, I believe, being the ample on-street you already have on New Street and Cherry Street, which is hardly ever occupied at most hours of the day, as well as an entire off-street parking lot controlled by the Urban Development Authority that is just across New Street from this proposal. So I would state my opposition to the proposed new parking and ask that this board consider recommendations that might eliminate the need for that new parking and have a more appropriate historical design within that area.
Thank you. Guys, my thoughts on this, I'm going to go to conversation amongst the board. If we have a question, we'll ask back. This is a major impact where we've just had 4 residential units approved with sloping lawns that kind of tie into this lawn. I think that this is going to be highly visually impactful and long term. It's going to be it would be parking for the funeral homes during funerals. It would be busy. It's, to me, it just breaks up the rhythm of the street right there. Welcome any comments and discussion from the other commissioners.
And so you really have. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead, Will.
Okay, thanks. I'd say you really have 2 conversations here. One is the 6 spaces along New Street, and the desire for those, as Greg Boyke talked about, the ability to have parking across the street at the Urban Development Authority parking lot. That's one thing. But then you also have the need for this business, whatever it's going to continue to be, to have some accessible parking to what I would assume would have to be the rear entrance as the accessible path to this business, which is going to be required by Business Development Services, code enforcement. So I think those are your 2 tasks, really, are to kind of find solutions for each of those problems. And there's got to be a way to do that in an appropriate way. But I think we need to see more developed plans taking the considerations in today. And I know you were just trying to get something for discussion, Matt, and that's better than most people do. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I do want to point out, if I may, that the Urban Development Authority has pledged the use of that parking lot behind Cherry Blossom headquarters for the parking of the new Marriott Hotel, is what has been indicated. There's no off-street parking for the multi-story renovated hotel. So our understanding is that one of the problems that is spurring this most is that that parking that has been used there for years is now reserved and pledged for the development of the Marriott Hotel, which is in the old annex building.
This is Stephanie Heath. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi.
You can state your address for the record, please.
My address is 423 Spring Street is my home, and I am the new owner of this building. So I also live in the neighborhood at the end of the street. And I just wanted to say, I certainly want to find an amicable solution with the residents here. I do want to stay in keeping. I don't want to disturb their resident life, but this is an office building, and I'm a marriage and family therapist. And some of the kids that I work with, I'm definitely going to need some handicap access to the building. And again, I agree. I don't think there's one way to do this, but there certainly does need to be a dialogue to find a solution. It's an office building. It's been built for this purpose when it first was constructed in the 80s. The parking situation has changed around the building. So as an office, I certainly need to be able to provide more parking and certainly handicap parking for my clients. So that I'm just trying to find a solution, but I'm certainly flexible in doing that. And as I said, I do live in the neighborhood. I walk this neighborhood every morning with my dogs. I'm very invested in this neighborhood. I want it to aesthetically be pleasing for everyone as well. I've been a therapist in downtown Macon for 3 years now. I've worked in Macon for probably 15 years, and we decided to move downtown. So again, I am invested in the area, and I do want to find a workable solution for this.
Yeah, unfortunately, we can't give you access to private property to access your parking, and that's a matter to be worked out with that property owner. I also don't want to make you go to the expense. And my 2 cents is that the parking directly off the street, while you do have it around the neighborhood, and I've seen it, it's also been there and for a long time. We also have a new use directly behind the old Cancer Society building that has been there for about 20 years, and this has been kind of part of the fabric, and that is part of what ties the streetscape together in there, is my opinion.
Chris, I'm not sure if it's relevant or helpful at all, but I would like to point out the right down the street, the address is actually 808 Mulberry Street. It's a very historic carriage house. I'm not sure if we can pull that up. I can do a screen share and show the tax map of it.
I'm looking at it right now.
And it has a retaining wall and off-street parking, very similar to what we'd be proposing. And that was circa 1900. So there is some historic precedent.
And that's part of what I'm getting at, Matt, is that, that's been there as part of the fabric of the neighborhood. This streetscape here that we have is kind of part of the fabric of the neighborhood. And it just concerns me. I think you've got too much impact right there at that intersection to park cars there. Just my opinion.
And is that visual impact or pedestrian was mentioned? What can we do to mitigate that impact?
That's a lot of visual impact right there. I'm not, the traffic engineers, have already, if there's no pushback from them, I'm certainly not a traffic engineer. But the visual impact of this parking being there with the way that the streetscape is developing and has been developing for the last several years, to me, it's just too great of an impact. You have a lawn broken up with steps all the way down through there, and I really feel like there may be some middle ground here, but by trying to deal with the HOA next door. I'm not sure what their capacity is, but maybe participating with them in expenses for maintenance of drives and lots. But you know, that, as I said, that's a conversation between the property owners. And I just don't see a terribly compelling reason to pull the parking down on the street. At that point.
I think that from one perspective, there's still not enough shared parking in the HOA. And as I mentioned before, the Urban Development Authority, due to a good problem, which is growth, has decided to allocate the public parking across the street to this new hotel chain that's coming in.
And
so that does create
I mean,
a problem for these property owners and for the business that existed there. And I do think that we have to accommodate that somehow to see the building, you know, have the highest and best use and to continue to be able to be utilized appropriately. And we would definitely be open to other input from the HOA. We've tried to come up with some, that's what this is about, is input and alternatives. We looked at putting it parallel parking on the west side of the building and an access alley that would connect over there. I know that there has been mention of conflicting title information but I think that there's attorneys working on whether, you know, are working on the access, and I think that's maybe a separate venue. But we've looked at alternatives of putting parking on the west side, but that would require removal of the screen wall that's there. And more significant grading. But that was one alternative approach that we did evaluate.
Gotcha. And I see that the parallel parking along Cherry Street is allocated to the opposite side of the street there. And I just don't think that we've got the right proposal. And I don't know that fleshing it out and going to the expense of doing that would really change my opinion on that. But like I said, Carrie, Will, Kurt, do y'all have any comments?
I would just have to say that, you know, part of this board is listening to the neighbors and their thoughts on what's going to be built around them. That's what we do in every meeting. And I think it's important to note that there's a lot of concerns there that still need to be addressed. And I, for one, don't feel comfortable approving this because of those concerns. And I think there's some issues that still just need to really be fleshed out. And I think, Chris, I think you made a lot of really good points with just the appearance of how this is going to look. But I do think that we maybe need to go back to the drawing board a little bit on this and figure out some updated solutions that are going to work for everyone. And that would be my opinion.
And I would just reiterate, I think a conversation with the property owners, with the adjacent property owners in the HOA would be very appropriate on this.
I would, this is Kurt Brewer, listening. I think this is a good example of, and I would vote for it, for deferral, to resolve not insignificant issues that have been brought up at this meeting, and come back to the DRB.
Will, any comments?
No, I think that everybody's encapsulated it quite well. I think further conversation would be beneficial, and you know, and then come back to us with some updated solutions.
Well, Kurt, can I treat your comment as a motion
Yes,
for deferral?
yes.
All right. So I have a motion for a deferral and for further conversation and study of the issues. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. So we have a motion and a second for deferral of 804 Cherry Street for further discussion and study of the issue. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All right. Next item is 893 Riverside Drive, certificate of appropriateness to allow design materials of a new convenience store, CB2 district. Mr. Amin with Satsang Segar LLC is the applicant. Mr. Amin, if you could state your name and your address for the record, and just make sure you're not muted currently. Is Mr. Amin in the meeting?
If you don't think so, I think he may have left and may be coming back.
All right, well, we'll put that one on hold for right now. Next item is 1391 Chestnut Street, certificate of appropriateness for design and material of approval of a new dwelling unit, HR3 district. R. Allen Wells Jr. is the applicant. Mr. Wells, if you could state your name and address for the record and tell us a little bit about your project.
All right, my name is Alan Wells. I live at 1391 Chestnut Street. 1345 Chestnut Street. The property in question is 1391 Chestnut Street. This is a corner lot, corner of Chestnut and Tatnall. It's been vacant for some time. I think Historic Macon controlled this property for many years, and then Ryan purchased it a few years back, and I purchased it from him. The goal of the project is to build a single-family dwelling for resale on the property.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about the materials.
Okay. As exhibited in the specifications I've submitted, this will be a concrete masonry unit, foundation, cross-base foundation, wood frame construction with fiber cement concrete siding. There's a 2-story portion and a 1-story portion. The house will be built, and as you can see by the prints, pretty much matches the homes up and down the street very, very closely. The front of the home will be a hip roof with the flat, semi-flat, for all intents and purposes, a flat roof over the front porch. That the shingles on the roof will be architectural style, split tab shingles, and then over the front porch, that'll be the flat roof will be the thermoplastic polyfin covering for weather protection. Wood rails and pickets, wood steps with a concrete walk going to the street. The garage, the single car garage, will enter off of Chestnut Street and will be paved from the street to the house, as you can see on the site plan. The deck to the left side of the home, if you're facing it with your back to Tatnall Street, will be a wood frame deck, treated materials. The soffit and eaves, aluminum soffit, vinyl, aluminum fascia vinyl soffit, gutters and downspouts, and steel exterior doors with vinyl single hung windows with the grids to match the homes in the area, generally 1/1 or 1/2. Like I said, this house looks almost exactly like the houses up and down the street right there. I do intend, and one of the goals of the project is to make this home very efficient and also to make it so that it's going to last. You know, a lot of the problems you have with homes in the historic district, they start looking pretty bad after a while, and it's fading, things like that. So I'm trying to use materials that will meet with and be conducive to the neighborhood itself, but also hold up over a few years so that 10 years from now, the house doesn't look like it's been there for 40 years. I want it to look like it's been there for 40 years, but it's been redone regularly and kept up. And that's one of the goals. The other options I intend to put on the house, I want to put solar panels on the roof to supplement the expenses on the home. And there's also a private mother-in-law suite over the garage with a separate entrance. And I could probably talk for hours, but you probably don't want me to. So
the hardy board would be 6 inch. The hardy board would be 6 inch hardy board.
Yes, sir.
All right, with 5 inches exposed. Okay.
And then a 10-inch
any
skirt
concerns
board
on
around the bottom.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Any concerns on the windows from our architectural fellows and interior designers out there?
I did have a clarification on the cementitious board. Smooth, was it smooth, or were you planning on using a textured?
My intention was to use smooth.
Okay, thanks. And then regarding the windows, I mean, does that, Adrian, what would the guidelines say here in terms of the division of windows for new construction? You're on mute. Sorry.
You're correct.
Yeah.
The division of the windows is not a problem. The material is, because vinyl windows are not compatible with the design in the design guidelines for anything within the district. Now, across the street, out of the district, yes, but not in the district.
Mm-hmm.
Vinyl clad wood is acceptable, not thrilling, but acceptable, but not vinyl windows.
I do have
a vinyl or go ahead,
yeah.
Carrie.
No, I was just going to say, I do have some concerns with the design of the front porch and the railings at the top of that. I do feel like that is a bit out of character for the neighborhood. I feel like typically on front porches throughout this area, you see more of a shed roof style, but that to me starts to look very much like a new home that you would find in the suburbs. And I feel like this home is already seems a bit larger than a lot of the surrounding homes on that street, which concerns me, but that specific detail does jump out to me as well. I'm not sure how my fellow board members feel about that.
I know I'm not a board member, but let me jump right in first with the size and the scale of the house.
Yes.
The one right across the street on the other corner is of similar scale and mass.
Okay.
And it looks like it has just 2/2 divisions in the windows. So if you had a 2/1, which is what seems to be what's shown on the front of the house, I would just like to see the 2/1 carried around the exterior of the house, because it will be visible from the street. I'd also just like to add my 2 cents in on the rear yard there. It kind of begs for a fence, and I would like to be able to give the freedom to work with staff if it's so desired in the future, Mr. Wells. It's not a requirement at all, but just as part of any motion, I would like to be able to include that in the motion. If you wanted a fence and a gate to secure parking or.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I appreciate that. I seriously considered putting a fence in the application. However, as you probably very well know, material prices are going up every day. And
yes, sir,
I'm about to hit a wall on this house. And so if I were approved for a fence initially and it was something that I was required to do, then I'd have to come back to you if cost overruns were so great. But if I had the option to be able to apply the fence in the future, that would be wonderful.
As long as you work with staff and on that, I think that's allowable in my opinion, because I feel like it's something you would want And most of the yards around there do have pickets on the visible portions of the yard, or a type of wood fence that I think we could make something. It wouldn't be too hard to look immediately across the street or to your neighbor and work through something with staff on that would tie in with the architecture of the neighborhood.
That would be great.
The solar panels, talk about how many of those you anticipate, and it looks like they're going to be on the side that face Chestnut Street.
That's correct. The side that faces Chestnut Street, and then the side that would face somewhat east-southeast, which wouldn't be very visible from the road at all. There would be none on the Tatnall Street side, nor the left side, the one-story side either.
Mm-hmm.
And you're looking at probably a total of 24 panels. I'm limited in how many panels I can put on that roof just because of size restrictions. But in this case, being able to put them on during construction, the cost feasibility for a purchaser is very good. Georgia doesn't give much of a solar credit, but if we can put them in initially and it's not a rework, then it will really profoundly affect their power bills.
All right.
So
any other comments?
I think in terms of that visibility from the public way is what I would be concerned with. I know that's your best use of those would be on that south or the right side, or it's roughly south. But I think the rear would be more desirable. If I'm not even sure what the guidelines say about that, Adrian. Are there anything? Is there anything specific? Okay.
The guidelines were written prior to solar panels.
Okay. So that would be my recommendation, where you have the eastern facing longer portion of the roof, and limiting those as much as possible from view in public, from the public way.
As far as that goes, if you require me to only put them on the rear of the home, then I would need to just probably drop the panels, because there wouldn't be enough coverage to actually offset the cost of the solar panels. To reduce the electrical cost, it's almost imperative if I put solar panels on this, they would have to be on that side that faces Chestnut Street specifically. It would be more effective if I dropped the panels on the back, which are not at issue right now, but
right, it's
just due to the southward facing of the property and the way that the lot sits.
I mean, I can certainly understand why you want to do those. That would be a great benefit to the owner, and good use of sustainable methods of energy. But I'm not sure what the precedent would be for a historic district in that regard. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that?
We have we've allowed solar panels on a couple of houses in Bills Hill, actually.
We have.
And in both cases they were highly visible. In fact, one of them, I think they were on the roof that faced the street.
Okay, well, I think this is the first time that I've seen this as a member of the board. So
yeah, we don't see many of them, but we probably will start seeing them.
I feel like in the past,
I'm of the same opinion.
I feel like in the past, our
Carrie.
approval for those. No, I was just gonna say, I feel like in the past, our approval for those has been, based on the idea that it's not necessarily a permanent structure that's on the roof, but it's something that could be removed in the future. So
well, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll rescind my comment then, Alan. Sorry.
All right, and just going back to the front porch, Carrie, I'm in agreement with you. I think looking through the neighborhood at the other porches, you do see more of a shed roof. I think the rail up there is is out of character for this neighborhood, but I don't believe the scale of the house is out of character at all. That is a nice little area that's just gotten better as improvements have come to it.
I did have a question.
Right.
The front door and the garage door. Can you just clarify again those material selections?
Yes, the front door would be a steel panel door with side lights and a top light.
Okay.
And as far as it may be clear glass or leaded glass, I haven't really picked the exact door out. The garage door would be a metal garage door, and my intention is to put the brackets on it to make it look more like a carriage type door with the handles, but it will be an electric remote garage door.
Okay. Adrian's shaking her head. What is that allowed or?
I forgot I was on video. I'm thinking in terms of a carriage style door with this more Georgian house. I could live with it. It's just not it to me. The standard garage door might be more in keeping than one with the hinges.
I would agree with that.
Well, I'm fine with that. It costs me less money.
It will cost you less money. We've already saved you money on the railing and the garage door.
Put it into more solar panels.
Do we have a motion for
Go
1391
back
Chestnut Street?
to the vinyl windows, please, for just a second. That what was your what was the board decision on the windows, please? I mean,
Those
the board
need to be either
discussion.
aluminum clad, that they need to be either aluminum clad or vinyl clad wood.
Okay.
May I just, for clarification, and I know that this particular lot falls into kind of a special district, but I was involved in the construction of 4 homes on Tatnall Place back in the early
in the district,
which is, I know it's a little bit different district, but we put vinyl windows in those. And actually 3 of those homes I built for historic Macon at the time.
Those are not in design districts.
I understand. I guess the point that, or the request that I'm making, the vinyl windows do cost less than the wood clad windows. They require less maintenance and upkeep. And specifically from the road and unless you walk up to them and put your hands on them, you can't tell the difference in those windows when they're installed. They look virtually the same, and a vinyl clad wood window is going to look virtually the same. The difference would be the sustainability, the longevity of it. Those windows will last, even if they get wet, 40, 50 years or more probably, where a wood window is not. Even a clad wood window will rot, and I've seen it happen a number of times. And one of my goals for this home is to build something that's going to last.
I just don't feel like that's a precedent that we can start now. If we approve that for that district, then we are really going down a rabbit hole that we can't get out of. And that has been our policy in the past.
We've actually required others to change them back.
Yes.
I tried.
So.
Yeah, we just can't budge on that. That's one of those that we just can't.
Right.
Did you talk about the shutter material? I may have missed that.
We did not. I don't think we did.
No.
And to keep with the neighborhood, really, I looked at, basically if you go by shutters, usually they're vinyl, and you can get the vinyl 6-panel or the louvered vinyl, and I really didn't like those. I think what I'd like to do is a site built 1x4, 3-panel 1x4 with the cross pieces on it, which is kind of more in line with what goes on that type home historically.
So wood or true wood.
I would, yeah,
painted
or concrete. I can buy 1x4.
Or gotcha.
And it would be painted and mounted on the surface.
those generally, when they're fixed in that manner, Adrian, would you, with the design guidelines, like to see the clips that would have been present historically, like an S clip? Or
I don't think that's necessary, Will, as
Okay.
long as they are similar to adjacent or nearby, which
Mhm.
would be wood, louvered, but there are not many shuttered windows on this street.
guess all I would say is that if to make them look like if they were active, that they would close and make the entire make it all the way to the center point so that they're half the width of the window. You know what I mean?
The correct size,
The
yes.
correct size, right?
And I agree with that. I don't want them to look, I mean, you've seen the
Like
shutter.
gumbo ears.
Yeah. I'm not gonna chintz on that one thing with what I'm putting into this home.
Sure.
Now, for clarity, did you say that these would be louvered, or are these going to be
Needs to be solid wood.
solid wood?
I'd provide as in, 3 pieces and then a cross piece top, cross piece bottom with about an 8-inch reveal from the top and bottom.
Uh-huh.
So that's paneled.
Not a raised
Yeah,
panel, but
Yeah,
yes, I guess.
yeah.
I do worry that is a little starts to lean a little craftsman for the style of house.
Yes.
But I think that maybe the various options for the shutters need to be explored to get that clarified just a little more. And that could be something that is perhaps just submitted to staff for approval.
I could do that. I mean, I can get you, get staff. I guess Adrian, I would deal with you maybe, but
Yes,
just some pictures of what I'm talking about and just present them to you.
yes.
Okay.
But we're not requiring him to do louvered panels or raised.
No,
No.
no.
Okay.
And I'm looking at Google, or I'm looking at the Google streetscape for this lot. I don't see a shutter on a window anywhere.
Yeah, it's not until you get up the street a bit on Tatnall, and there's a yellow house that does have.
Yeah, my house doesn't have shutters. My wife's after me to put some on, but
Yeah, finally, Carrie, I see that yellow house. Yeah.
I mean, are you sure you really want them? They're just another maintenance headache.
Yeah.
I can live, certainly you can live without them as far as I think we're concerned.
I mean, the house directly across the street that's a similar design, this doesn't have shutters. So,
Right. It's an American Foursquare and it doesn't have them.
yeah, but
Actually, it's a side hall. Never mind. It's not a Foursquare. For what it's worth.
we'll take your word on that, Adrian.
All
Okay,
right.
do I have a
we
motion?
have a motion for 1391 Chestnut Street?
So what are the items we are to include? Working with staff
Shed
on the
roof at the
shutters,
front
shed roof at the front.
and the windows.
Okay.
need
Just
to
for
be-
clarification, do we want the roof at the front to be an actual shed, or are we okay with just having a flat roof over the porch, but removing those top railings?
for the record, I have an egress issue because I have to put a certain size window in
Uh-huh.
to meet life safety. And so
Sure.
if I go with a shed roof, that I can't put that size window in. And it's both windows to that bedroom are actually affected. That's the same bedroom. So
No,
that
and I think a flat roof without the railing would work fine. I mean, we've got that precedent further up Tatnall Street.
I would agree with that.
with TPO on the front roof. It does not have to be shed. It could be a flat.
Okay.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Who made the
All right,
motion?
thank you. Will made the motion.
Okay,
I believe Kelly and Kurt seconded it.
okay.
Okay, so just to clarify, I'm sure I'll hear back, but so you want 2/1 on the windows, vinyl clad. We're open on the fence for future discussion, open on the shutters for future discussion, and drop the rails on the porch roof.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. And next up is 2462 Vineville Avenue. Certificate of appropriateness to allow demolition and design approval of a new parking lot, historic commercial district. Lars Anderson is the applicant. Lars, if you would just state your name and your address for the record.
Chris, I believe
And
he
tell
may
us a little bit
drop
about your
off.
project. Okay.
He's been on a couple of times. He may be back.
He's a very, very busy man. He's over there working when I'm pulling out of my street late at night, quite often. For what it's worth, I grew up just on Corbin Avenue and can remember there actually being 4 buildings here. One of them with the roof falling in that they think was burned by a homeless man trying to get out of the cold one winter, and that abutted what used to be a convenience store there.
Lars is joining us now.
All right.
Lars, are you with us?
Lars, you might still be on mute. It gives you a couple of instructions as you come on.
He's on according to my, no, yeah. Lars? Okay.
You want to move to the items from previous meetings?
Sure, that's fine with me.
Lars, I think you're muted. But, item from the previous meeting is
I think it's a microphone issue. Maybe if they could use the call-in feature for audio.
all right. We'll move on to 1990 Vineville Avenue. This is a certificate of appropriateness for demolition and design approval of the laundromat, HR3 district. Ashok Patel is the applicant.
All right,
Mr. Patel, if you could just state your name. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Gotcha. Yes, sir.
Ashok Patel at 8062 Eisenhower Parkway, La Zela, Georgia.
All right.
And last meeting we discussed about you guys like to have landscaping updated and one wheel side and other side to be not the metal panel. So we changed that plan, and now we are saying that we're gonna do the brick and stucco on all 3 sides.
There was a request for the landscape for the landscape plan. It was noted that the existing trees that
Yes.
are shown we're not there. And looking at it on street view, I don't believe they are. Is the plan to plant additional trees at that location?
Yes, if you look at the plan shows, I think she's on wrong page. If you go back to the landscaping plan and go underneath, no, not that one. That shows what size plant it is. No, go back. You just had it. That shows that what size caliper we're gonna put some more trees on it. Not there. Yeah, make the page bigger. That's our planting schedule right there.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the confusion is just that there are listed existing trees next to the parking area. Yeah, about there, and that just looking on the street view don't appear to be there. If they are there, it's more of a scrub type tree. I would say that the addition of those would be beneficial, and that's I think what we're looking for. It's just clarifying whether your planting schedule would include trees in that location.
If it's if his tree is not there, we're gonna plant it.
Okay.
We seem to have lost the island right there against Holt Avenue on the end of the parking lot. Has that been? It's kind of a grade wall almost in there, but would that be removed?
No, we are not removing anything up there.
All right. So just if we could have similar plantings in the island that is there to what is noted on the corner, I think I'm good. Still don't like that we're backing out into Vineville, but again, it's people. It's a traffic engineering thing, not a design review board item. There's asphalt there now.
So just for
Any
clarification, can you pull up the updated exterior? Is there an updated exterior rendering or?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. There it is. So it's now a brick on all four sides. It's with a stucco as well. Is that correct, Ashok?
Yes.
Okay.
It's about 3 foot or 4 feet brick on the bottom where you see the dark gray. And the light gray will be a stucco.
And then is there an illuminated sign going?
No. My architect says that on Vineville, but we're not going to have a sign on Vineville side.
Okay. But there'll be one on the front or?
On the front.
And Adrian, is an illuminated sign allowed?
I honestly don't know, Carrie, because I hadn't looked it up because there's no sign application yet.
Okay, correct. Yes.
I apologize, but
that's okay.
No, that's okay. That's a separate issue.
Yes. So the concerns from the neighbors in the previous meeting, if I'm remembering correctly, had a lot to do with the landscaping. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
And the metal panels, right?
Right, and the metal sides of the building.
We're not really, and Ashok, I stand corrected. We are not losing an island there. You just have kind of a high wall there. It's
Yeah.
the growth that came up from the good Lord there. All right. I don't have any further questions. Do you have a motion for 1990 Vanville Avenue?
So moved.
All right, so we have a motion by Kurt that we're approved with the addition of the 2 trees that were noted as existing to the landscape plan. Do I have a second?
And the further submission of a signage application and approval.
Right.
There
All right.
will be a
Do I have
separate application for that too.
That's right.
Right. Do I have a second?
Second.
With Will's amendment. All right. So all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All right, motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right. All right, and next up is 2462 Vineville Avenue. Certificate of appropriateness to allow demolition and design approval of a new parking lot. Historic Commercial District. Lars Anderson is the applicant.
Done, bud.
There you go.
Lars, are
Lars, can you hear us?
No.
You've got video, Lars. We're having a hard time with your audio.
Lars, you sound like you're on Mars.
I can't read what
Can't
the
read it.
sign says that he's
I have a
holding up.
whole lot of feedback. I don't know if y'all do.
I do too.
All right, I am getting a lot of feedback.
I hear him in a vacuum.
Adrian, was there a phone number call in?
Let me go to the application. Oh, I don't know. On the
On the
Zoom,
Zoom
I don't
meeting?
know.
Oh,
Mark,
There is.
yeah, I see it right here.
Mm-hmm. Lars,
Do they
could
get
you
the
call
same
in on the
invite we
phone?
do?
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
Do you have the meeting, the number for, or do I need to pull it up?
Let me see. I can try to put it on screen here.
Okay.
Let's see. Well, actually, I'm not sharing my screen, so it won't matter. But here, I can put it in the chat comments, I think. Okay, is there a way to chat? Do that?
or Mark can share it.
Or you can share it, yeah.
Isn't it on the invite?
It is on, that's where I got it. It's on the invite.
Hang on just a second.
Laura, did you pay your phone bill?
I hear somebody talking.
Yeah, we can't read that.
Cannot read it.
Adrian, do you
Gotta
have
get it
do
closer.
you have Lars's phone number? Why don't you text him and see if we can give him some instructions.
I'm going to the application.
Okay.
It's a landline.
Oh, okay.
Can you just call him?
That's what I'm doing.
There you go.
Lars, it's Adrian Wood. I'm gonna put you on speakerphone.
That's not gonna
Adrian,
work.
turn off your audio.
That's not working.
Lars, you'll need to
Hold
put it up to your ear. Oh,
What?
Adrian, tell Lars to call in on the number that we provided him in the invite.
Lars? Yes, but you need to call in on the number that we provided on the Zoom invite.
I'm getting the number for him now.
Okay.
Oh, I will send it for you. I will send it to you again right now.
You should see it on the
Oh, it's on the Zoom. You don't have the Zoom invite? It's on the Zoom screen, but let me send you the invite again. Okay, bye. Did y'all hear that?
no.
no.
I can hear him.
I've got to send him the Zoom invite again. Did we ever hear back from the 893?
No, ma'am. He never came back.
Okay,
Do I have a motion to move 893 Riverside Drive to defer it to a future meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Who seconded?
All right.
Carrie did. Thank
Kurt.
Kurt
Kurt
did.
seconded.
Gary moved. Kurt seconded.
Okay, I emailed the invite to Lars.
It's just on Mars.
Ah, yeah.
Jim, do you see what you've created?
I'm sorry, guys. You know, I do my best.
It could have gone to Mars. I may not have done it right. No, it went to Lars. But you know what? Oh, wait. I don't know that this is an actual mobile number. It's an actual number.
Right, but if you have the invite in your phone, you look at it in your phone, you can just hit dial in and it'll help.
Yeah.
It'll let you dial
Oh,
in, and it
okay.
dials your password and everything.
I haven't done that. I just sent what the link Mark gave me. Let me call him and make sure.
Okay, somebody's coming on. Lars, I'm assuming
All
this
right,
is
you're still
telephone number ending in 653.
and you're still muted on that line. You might have to push *6, Lars. There you are.
You know, when you pass 60, the world should not change this much.
Well, when you
I'm
pass
very
60,
sorry.
you let us know.
Very kind of you, but that's where I am. My apologies to all of you. I thought we were better prepared for this.
We're good. Some days, believe it or not, we have difficulty. If you could just state your name and address for the record, Lars, that would be great. And then just tell us a little bit about the proposal.
Okay. My name is Lars Anderson. My residential address is 163 Rogers Avenue, Macon, Georgia. This proposal goes by the address on the tax map, which is 2462 Vineland Avenue. My law office, which is the contact for applicant information, is 2476 Vineland Avenue, which is the adjacent building.
Gotcha.
Now, for the project, we have, as you've seen on the pictures, there are a series of, I'm going to use Josh Rogers' term, and we did the historic review, the tax program. They were built in boxes. The one that my law office is in at 2476 was built first, and it's the only one that had historic significance for the purposes of tax credits. The building that's brown in color, and on the old pictures, the one marked Piggly Wiggly was built second, and the one now left is the one that was built third. There was a fourth building, one more closer to Ron Lemon's chiropractic office, but that was torn down years ago. I'm requesting permission to take down the third building to expand the parking lot. And I'm requesting that because obviously I have some parking limitations on this particular property. As it is right now, there are only 5 spaces of off-street parking. I would like to redo the second building in a manner that's both historically sensitive and appropriate, but we will not have sufficient parking without my flooding my neighbors with automobiles, and I live around the corner and I don't want to do that, nor do I think I would be allowed to do that. So
you have that mean architect that lives across the street. You have that mean old architect that lives across the street.
A stone's throw, and there's a large piece of glass facing his house right now, yes. So what we'd like to do is, this is the first step of a 2-step project. The building, which is known as 2462, I call it the middle one, but it's the brown one. That's the next step for renovation. So we'd like to get sufficient parking, and this would give us about 11 or 12 spaces. In the law office right now, we have 3 lawyers and a secretary. So we're barely covered with the 5 spaces there. But if we could get the additional spaces, that would allow us sufficient room by law and, of course, by ease of movement to do the second building.
Just for clarification, the request is to remove what was previously the Piggly Wiggly building. Is that correct?
No, Piggly Wiggly, in my mind, is number 2. It's the one now that's been vacant and has been vacant. Let me see.
So it's the one on the very end.
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
Right, and the one next to it burned sometime in the. The roof had already caved in, and they think a homeless person may have set it on fire.
I see.
Oh, goodness. Probably sometime in the 80s.
Okay. I moved here in 85, so I think that predates me. But, yes, I just know that there's a lump of concrete in the present driveway, which was obviously just sort of the lead up to wherever the door was.
Mark,
Any
could you
questions?
pull up the Mark, could you pull up the site plan?
Sure.
Yeah. Lars, it's Jim. I know this is a rough sketch, although a nice rough sketch. You're showing the parking lining up with the back of the building, or because the site drops off, do you intend on extending that same level, or will you just pave or remark what's already there?
Well, the existing parking really just goes back to the front of the chiropractor, and so obviously we're going to go backwards. There is a drop as you face it from the street,
right,
front to back and right to left. So there will need to be a retaining wall that starts at a very small height on the right-hand side of the parking lot, and will get higher as it goes back to the left corner, again, as you face it.
Okay.
Am I answering your question? I apologize.
No, you are. But is it high enough that it's going to require a rail at the end of the parking lot?
I don't know that yet. I apologize. We had a wall designed. It's been designed by Scott Pipkin's firm, and then Triple Point had not told me about a railing yet.
Okay, well, I'm just looking at the Google Street View, so I'm catching up to what's going on, but
Jim, if I, out of ignorance, what height do you need a railing? And I can probably answer the question.
30 inches.
30 inches, yeah.
30 inches.
At the very least, to the left-hand side, if you face it, you will, but obviously for aesthetics, it would have to go all the way across.
Okay. So you're going to extend the existing pavement back to the rear of the two buildings, basically. Ron's building in the, okay.
That's correct. In other words, on the site plan where it says proposed parking, you see the light color, that's the existing rectangle right there that goes from Ron's building across. Right. And we're going to go backwards and then take in the space where the building is, we'd like requesting to come down.
Right, okay. And it'll be concrete or asphalt?
Right now, the parking pad is asphalt, and it's been many years since I was in the chair with all of you, but it's my recollection that it's concrete now, that concrete is a favored material. And since I live around the corner, I need to keep people happy. So it would be concrete.
That's most important.
And just remember, it has to have some sort of landscaping.
I understand that, Ms. Wood, and I appreciate you bringing that up. And I saw the concerns. I obviously will take direction from the board. Now, I am, on a side note, I had called because the direction of Vineville neighborhood, because we had some concerns about the medical records business or the medical record that went in with Church of Christ, because they put down an asphalt parking lot with no screening. So maybe they're in violation of an order. I'm going to stick with, I need to keep people happy, but I do drive by that medical records building. I see a big piece of black asphalt, but if the board has recommendations, I will incorporate them. But I do think that's important. I was sorry that wasn't done on that floor. If it was done, we'll again request enforcement of whatever planting was supposed to go back up the street. But I will do what you ask.
Well, both materials are appropriate, either asphalt or concrete. It just depends on the site and what's around it. So that's
well. Since Ron's got concrete, I think I better stick with him.
Okay. And you're not going to have to move that power pole, are you? I don't think you are.
No. Okay. The plan is not to move the power pole, and
you just show the existing curb cut.
Yeah.
Yes. In fact, just for edification, my office has right of ingress and egress over to Buckingham. We're thinking about trying to do as much as we can to not use that curb cut. It's very dangerous. Traffic comes down the hill way too fast. And the sight line there is terrible now. So we get all of our clients to go to Buckingham. But that will improve a little bit should the building come down. But it's still we just need a little more speed enforcement. We've got people in excess of 60 miles an hour coming down the hill in the 30-mile-an-hour zone, I'm afraid.
I will say that, my concern about taking the building down, I do know that the Vineville Avenue corridor is part of the 2021 Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation Places in Peril. They've listed the entire street as an area that is changing rapidly and losing a lot of the original character of that streetscape. And I do feel like these small commercial properties that are on there are part of that historic fabric of the neighborhood. And I do appreciate that you do want to renovate one of those, because I do think that will really improve what's there, because right now, obviously, it's not great, but I am concerned with tearing one down, because obviously once it's gone, it's gone. So that is my concern with this project.
It's a little bit of a Hobbesian choice for me, because in 35 years, I've never come to take a building down. If you look at some of the old pictures that we sent in, you find that when these buildings were built, there was on-street parking on both sides of Vineland.
Right.
That's not there now. And so if I came and asked to renovate this building, I would have problems getting the building that approved because there's no parking for that particular structure. And so I do appreciate, and maybe we do make up with appropriate screening and landscaping. I will also tell you that I am on the board of Bible Neighborhood, and we did at our last board meeting, out of full complete transparency, I did alert the board members to this application by me. So it's well known in the neighborhood that what we're doing, or what I'm asking to do, excuse me.
All right. Any other concerns? Kurt? Will?
While I would rather not see it come down, I think given the choice between the two of those, maintaining the one closest to the Peacock building would be preferable, and renovating it. And can understand the need for the parking, between the two properties. So not what I'd rather see typically, but it's understandable.
I mean, I think, and I'm just there on Buford Place, and my 2 cents is that I would love to see that second building renovated as beautifully as Lars did the Peacock building, and I would certainly be willing to sacrifice this. And I would add to the board, just as a personal insight, if you could see how hard he and Mr. Lemon work to keep these properties up on the weekends. They're out there themselves, picking up trash and blowing and weed control in the cracks and everything else. To me, this is you could almost do this based on the street view picture. The parapet's cracked on the front, of the building. They're not just claiming a structural. This is a real honest to goodness, hey, this needs to come down. And if it means saving the one next door because we have appropriate parking, then I think it's appropriate.
So just for clarification, when you do renovate the former Piggly Wiggly building, it is you will not be able to do tax credits on that property. Is that correct? It does not. It's not listed as a significant building, or do you plan to apply for that?
Well, I would certainly revisit it. The problem, and this is when we did the application, when Josh was at Historic Macon, apparently the cutoff is 1926, I believe, and we're unable to show that I'm going to call it the Piggly Wiggly building number 2, predated that. The way the Sanborn maps worked out, Josh indicated to me at that time, and I think we put on our federal application, that it did not look like Piggly Wiggly would qualify. I would love if it did, but the renovation, though, will still be done in a manner as sensitive as we did the exterior of the Peacock building.
I would check back into those. Yeah, I would check back into those dates as well. I do know that they've changed some of those. So,
while it doesn't fall into the period of significance for the district, it might qualify just as a building now. Correct. Because of its age and its placement.
Okay. Well, thank you for the hint.
All right. So do we have a motion for 2462 Vineville Avenue?
So moved.
All right, we have a motion for approval by Kurt Brewer. We have a second.
Do we need to say anything, Chris or Adrian, about the rear retaining wall and the working with staff on the railing
And
and the landscaping?
And landscaping.
Okay, those would be my only qualifications.
All right, so we have a motion and a second with discussion from Mr. Stafford. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All right, motion passes. Thank you very much, Lars.
I thank you
All
all.
right, you
I
have
apologize.
no problem. We've experienced it all. We've all experienced it. All right. Do we have a motion? Do we have any new business to discuss, Adrian?
No.
Any old business?
191 Hines went to court again, but nobody showed up.
All right.
That's all I know.
Did
I
the
love the
judge
Mims
continue
family.
it?
I have to look and see what Randy,
That's okay.
What was-
I'll check with you later. It's all right.
yeah.
I'm
All
sure the
right. Do I
judge
have a
continued.
motion? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I moved.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.